Doctor Strange's adventures have often been, well, strange, I guess. That makes sense. Shut up. Involving mind-altering journeys across psychedelic dimensions so fast, so 60s. And much like most young people of that decade, the Sorcerer Supreme got up to some hanky bollocks in his time, including embarrassing defeats, pretty questionable behaviour towards his friends, and the usual helping of completely abandoned plot points. I'm Plumpy from WhatCulture.com, and here are 10 things Marvel want you to forget about Doctor Strange. Number 10, RINTRAH. Even by Marvel standards, and this is the same company that brought us Howard the Goddamn Duck, RINTRAH was odd. He was a being from another dimension who became Doctor Strange's apprentice and was also a big green Minotaur. Yes, there he is, and he's not trying to sell us sweet corn. I know, he's a character in William Blake's mythology and is therefore worthy and important, but it's also difficult to read dramatic dialogue coming out of a big green cow face. Apparently Marvel agreed, killing him off in an explosion. Stephen then mourned his apprentice's death the same way that I will mourn Ben Potter's inevitable passing by saying never mind and collecting his paycheck. Number 9, the orb of Agamotto is Wonderland. The heyday of Doctor Strange comics in the 70s owed a lot to 3 little letters, and they were a combination of S, D, and L. It's probably no surprise then that one storyline included multiple references to Lewis Carroll's drug culture classic Alice in Wonderland. Stephen found himself trapped inside the eye of Agamotto, and encountered a giant white rabbit, a hookah-smoking caterpillar, and even a tea party with his fellow superheroes. It was a kind of bizarre and completely out-of-nowhere story that defined a lot of Steve Englehart's work on the comic. To be honest, this is something that we hope Marvel forget, lest Tim Burton is brought in to direct Doctor Strange 2. Number 8, the Doctor Strange TV movie. In 1978, CBS produced a Doctor Strange TV movie as a pilot for a potential series. It starred Peter Hooton as Stephen and contained some familiar elements like Wong, Clear, and the mantle of the Sorcerer Supreme. It also saw a lot of the source material and went basically all of his origin story was dropped. He was now instead a psychiatrist who became involved in the supernatural through his patient Clear. The Sorcerer Supreme was a man called Thomas Linmere who passed on his mantle to Stephen, after the witch Morgan Le Fay tried to kill him through the distinctly unmagical means of pushing him off a bridge. It wasn't completely horrible like, say, the Captain America movie from 1990. However, the film's incredibly slow pace and the fact it was up against the landmark series roots caused it to get very low ratings, and the planned spin-off series was scrapped. Number 7, that time he ripped off The Matrix. The 2004 miniseries Strange was an attempt to reinvent the character's origin story for a new audience, and it cannot be overstated how much it was absolutely just a plot of the first Matrix movie. Instead of training in magic, Doctor Strange was a man who was chosen to be the next Sorcerer Supreme. He's even referred to at several points as the One. He is told this by the Ancient One, who is a wise older mentor figure and bald. After a bunch of fight scenes, Stephen is able to reach within himself and unlock his full potential as the One, presumably whilst wearing a sweet leather jacket that will date almost immediately. Number 6, his death in Ultimatum. The Ultimate Universe was an attempt by Marvel to offer a brand new line of comics for new readers that weren't bogged down by decades worth of continuity like their main comics, and some, like Ultimate Spider-Man, were f***ing brilliant. And then Marvel brought in Jeff Loeb to do a big crossover event called Ultimatum, and oh no, Jeff, you killed it. You killed the whole project. Why did you do that? Why did you do this heinous shit? Ultimatum is a very bad thing to happen to a very good thing. Turns out buckets of blood is what the nice, user-friendly Ultimate Universe needed, and so many characters die horrible deaths. Doctor Strange's is particularly awful. Dormammu appears after no build-up or storyline, and then he kills Stephen by choking him with his own cape until his head explodes like a moustached pimple, and then on to the next scene. Jeff, you wrote The Long Halloween. You are better than this. Number 5, he traps some journalists in an alternate world. Like all of Marvel's heroes, Doctor Strange battles with a deep personal flaw that sometimes he's a bit of a cock. In Strange Tales number 129, he's invited on a talk show to debate the existence of magic. However, he instead decides to use the opportunity to kill 2 birds with one stone, proving the existence of magic and satiating the insane hatred of journalists he apparently has. Using a mystical artifact, he teleports the hacks to an alternate dimension ruled by Tiboro, a monstrous sorcerer who was banished centuries ago and was just waiting for an opportunity to return and conquer all of Earth. Then Doctor Strange saves them and promptly wipes their mind of the event ever happening. Allowing 3 people to nearly get murdered to prove a point is a dick move. You're a dick. Number 4, he turned blue. During the late 60s, the Doctor Strange comic was selling pretty badly. To try and counter this, writer Roy Thomas and artist Gene Colan came up with a new design for the character. These almost never work. Case in point, Electric Superman. Look at that. What an absolute bollocks. See, while Stephen was in a different dimension, the villain Asmodeus Asmodeus stole his identity. When Strange tried to return, he found there was a magic barrier stopping him from entering our dimension because someone else was in his face, so he put a mask on. Oddly, after Asmodeus was defeated, Strange decided to keep wearing the mask to keep his identity a secret, despite his secret identity being literally his actual name. He then started calling himself Stephen Sanders, but eventually he just got sick of the whole thing and went back to having just one identity. It was just weird. Number 3, he left his apprentice with a demon. At the start of the miniseries Strange, Stephen took college student Casey Kinmont on as an apprentice. At the time, he was no longer Sorcerer Supreme and struggled to cast certain spells. To help out, he taught Casey a simple spell to make objects vanish. However, it turns out what the spell actually did was move objects into the realm of the demon Barashtok. I know how these words are spelt, I just don't know how they sound off the page. Barashtok? I'm just gonna go with Barashtok. The series ended with Casey getting dragged away by Barashtok and Stephen promising to save her. Unfortunately, since Doctor Strange didn't actually have a series at the time, he was unable to keep that promise, so it looks like he either forgot or just ignored his duty to her. Sorry, Casey. Number 2, Benjamin Franklin stole his girlfriend. One of Steve Englehарт's arcs involved Doctor Strange and his then girlfriend Clea traveling through time to discover the occult history of America. Their journey took them to the 1800s, where they bumped into lightning botherer Benjamin Franklin. Sadly, Stephen didn't get to meet his idol, as an evil wizard attacked his ship and he was forced to leave Clea to stay behind to protect Big Ben. Well, turns out Ben Franklin is more of a pounding father, and in no time at all, the first American had Clea in his bed. Englehart then left the book before he had a chance to finish the story, and his replacement, Marv Wolfman, retconned it as an illusion, but that didn't stop later writers referencing it, and even Ben Franklin himself confirmed it happened when he teamed up with Deadpool. And number 1, he fought God. Steve Englehart's stories were incredibly high concept, and they didn't get much higher than that of Sisneg. Hey, wait a minute, that's Genesis spelled backwards. Would you? Adam and Eve. Do you reckon they meant to do that? I don't. That was probably an accident. He was a wizard from the 31st century who decided to become omnipotent by absorbing all the magic of time and space. It's a weird story, but not as weird as what happened outside of it. When Stan Lee read the issue, he demanded that Englehart publish a retraction in the next issue to explain that the Judeo-Christian deity that most people have a habit of getting worked up over was not actually an evil space wizard. Englehart and his artist Frank Brunner got around this by creating a fake letter from a priest that praised the story. Nobody caught on, and the letter was printed in the next issue, saving them from having to write a retraction. And that's our list. Did we miss any out? Tell us about it in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter here. I'm Plumpy from WhatCulture.com, and I'll see you soon.